director is here with for kids if you wanted to bring them back there.
Hey, can you hear me now? Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley. I'm Sally Smith, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. We are a welcoming congregation with no particular creed, but instead are guided by our mission statement, which is on the front of your order of service, and by 8 principles, which are printed on the inside of your order of service. If you're new here and you'd like to learn more, there should be a white card that's either in your pew, in the back of the pews, or inside a hymnal, and you can fill one of those out and drop it in the collection plate, or just leave it out in the foyer and somebody will get in touch with you the way that you prefer. If you put email, we'll only do email. If you put, scratching your head and rubbing your tummy 3 times, we'll do that too. Before we go any further, we've got one announcement. If I can get it back here. And as you can see, Larry told me to tell you that I'm not him, so. This message went to Larry because somebody thought he was doing announcements, and it's in the order of service, but it's not him.
And it was my fault.
Says, Larry, can you remind folks during announcements that their GAYT money can be returned this month either directly to UU Service Committee with envelopes provided, or addressed with the information on the back of the box, or placed in the collection plate clearly marked GAYT, preferably check written to the UU Service Committee. I can't make it to church today, Anna. And then Larry and I had a discussion about what in the heck does GAYT stand for. I didn't feel so bad because I wasn't the only one who had no idea. It's, what did we say it was? It's gassed at your table. So some people collected money for that. If you are one of those people, do one of those things that was said in this email. If you are a visitor here, it's our tradition to have people stand and introduce themselves if they're comfortable and tell us where you're from. Is there anybody on this side who would like to stand and introduce themselves? Apparently not. Okay, how about on that side? Is there anybody new on this side?
I'm Eric Schmitz, and I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay, welcome.
We're introducing ourselves. I wanted to wait for you.
There's somebody who might be new.
Yes.
Are you in? Okay, you guys go ahead over here. Are you guys new?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Paul Forrest.
Hello. I'm Hannah.
Hi.
Yeah. And our kids are in they're right there.
Okay. Oh, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I'm Noelle, it's this season, but and I'm from Asheville.
Okay, welcome. Okay, if there's no one else, okay. I'm gonna read now our land acknowledgement. The UUCSV acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and of other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survived and thrive in this land. We acknowledge their enduring connection to their homeland. Okay, if everybody could turn off your cell phones so that you don't have weird noises going off in the middle of things, we will have our service begin. Take it away, Larry.
Well, we should have the lighting of the chalice, and we're gonna do that with our speaker, Donna Marie Todd. So I guess I'll introduce her first, and then we'll have the lighting of the chalice. Diane, would you like to light the chalice when we do something over here?
Right now?
Well, not right now, but come on up.
He
Yeah.
said, but come on up.
Yeah. You can come on up, though. Come on up.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that in a minute. But, Donna Marie Todd, you can read about her in your order of service, and actually, what it says in there is correct about Donna Marie Todd. We had a few things that weren't too correct, but that is. And I will just tell you, I've known Donna Marie for about 5 years, and she is a storyteller extraordinaire, wonderful singer. She does incredible workshops. She does all kinds of amazing things for the planet and the people on it. I would just tell you that her stories, to me, are a lot like Michael's sermons, in that she connects with your heart and she stimulates your thoughts. So we'll get some of that today. And to light our chalice, while Diane does that, Donna Marie and I will, don't call her Donna, it's Donna Marie. Do this.
It takes me a long time to train people that I have two first names, but I'm from West Virginia. And all the mistakes in your bulletin are my faults, I'm just, that's all. Ready? Great Spirit of light, come to me out of the east with the power of the rising sun. Let there be light in my words, let there be light on my path that I walk.
Let me remember always that you give the gift of a new day, and never let me be burdened with sorrow by not starting over again.
Great Spirit of love, come to me with the power of the north. Make me courageous when the cold wind falls upon me.
Give me strength and endurance for everything that is harsh, everything that hurts, everything that makes me squint. Let me move through life ready to take what comes from the north.
Great life-giving Spirit, I face the west, the direction of sundown. Let me remember every day that the moment will come when my sun will go down.
Never let me forget that I must fade into you. Give me a beautiful color. Give me a great sky for setting, so that when it is my time to meet you, I can come with glory.
Great Spirit of creation, send me the warm and soothing winds from the south. Comfort me, caress me when I am tired and cold.
Unfold me like the gentle breezes that unfold the leaves on the trees. As you give to all the earth your warm, moving wind, give to me so that I may grow close to you in warmth. Man did not create the web of life. He is but a strand in it. Whatever man does to the web, he does to himself.
Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Amen. The prayer of the four directions from the Cree in Canada.
Hey. Nice.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Donna Marie. What does this say comes next?
Concern?
Open hand.
Opening
Number 86. Okay, number 86. driving Ray crazy or trying to figure out which mic I'm on. Tabernacle Choir, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir is in big, big trouble. That's all I gotta say. You guys are great. We now comes a time when you get a chance to come up here and share a joy or a concern or a sorrow, anything you would like to share with the congregation for our consideration and holding you in our heart. And are you coming up first?
I am.
Okay. I will light a candle for you.
I'm taking over.
Happy New Year, everyone. I just wanted to read a post my daughter made of her last 12 months on the planet and going forward. 2022 began with my 10-year-old still sick with long COVID, and the medical testing from that led us to the incidental life-saving discovery that my husband and 2 of our children have inherited congenital heart disease. In January, my husband Josh will go back to the hospital. He was in Columbia Presbyterian for 2 weeks back in December and had a pacemaker installed. He will go back to the hospital for open heart surgery. He's 38 years old. If we hadn't found out that he needed it, he would likely have been dead in a matter of months. This year was terrible and wonderful and really beep, beep, weird. Friends fed me tacos and pizza. Art and literature fed me the sublime. Love kept me tethered to the earth. I stared into mystery and came away without answers. So much of what happens to us in life is dumb stochastic luck, and all we can do is keep circling the sun for as long as that luck allows. Please keep them in your hearts. They're struggling with long COVID, kids with heart. She has a 14-year-old who's now on beta blockers. Yeah, so anyway, Happy New Year.
Well, if there's nobody else, I'm Mary Stoyanova, and I am your coffee lady most Sundays. And this is so very mundane, but I want to quickly share it with you. I have been making coffee for quite some time, and a couple of weeks ago, Sue Stone came over and said, you know, the coffee was particularly good today. I said, really? Because Jean Brown made it. I said, Jean, how did you make the coffee? She said, 2 scoops. All these years, I've been making coffee with 1 scoop. Jeff said that the Unitarian Church has a reputation for weak coffee. However, today, I want to tell you, I read the directions. It said use 3 scoops. So today, the coffee has 3 scoops. So be sure and try the coffee today.
My name is Jackie Franklin, and I just want to express sorrow for those who struggled last year. We lost some people close to us. A lot of us had struggles, but also I want to express joy for the love that always surrounds us when we go through those times, and hope that in this new year we can face the good and the bad with love in our hearts and with dignity and grace.
If I'm permitted, I'll do it here.
You go, man.
Of course.
My name is Ann Silliman, and I ask your thoughts on loving for my assisted living place. They have 9 COVIDs. It's locked. I can't do anything there. I'm tested negative. Thank you.
Good morning, friends. I want to share 2 joys looking back on the last year, and I thank you, Mary. You're always lovely and hilarious, and mine is also kind of mundane, but there are 2 people in here I want to thank for helping me find some joy last year. The first individual is Larry Pearlman, who's wearing many hats like he does so well. And in July, some of you know that he succeeded me as treasurer of the congregation. We are in good hands with a very strong governing board and with Larry as our treasurer, and I thank you for liberating me from about a decade of service. My second joy and a thank you is to thank my good friend Nancy Gavin. She has a little not-for-profit called Senior Laps for Senior Cats. And thanks to Nancy brokering an adoption, my wife and I adopted two of the sweetest cats in October that have just added so much joy and feline energy into our home again. And I thank you, Nancy.
Well, on that, I'll thank Nancy too, because I am adopting a wildcat, a property cat. It's gonna take quite a process, but I love her too. She's about 10. But the reason I stood up is that my partner's aunt is facing pancreatic cancer. And so we are beginning the long journey of saying goodbye to her. And we got to see her yesterday. And I just ask that you help us to, or think about us with the closure, having closure, and just a wonderful year of remembering, or however many months to, 4 months to 14 months, I guess. Thank you.
She gave me an idea. So my dog Betty is basically my significant other. And when I first met her, it was in Westport, Connecticut, where my son is a vet. He was just helping out, but now he's a vet. And so I'm walking Betty toward the door, and she's just happy walking along, and here's a cat toward her. And the cat comes and does this to her. And now, when she sees a cat, she can almost throw me on the ground because, so, it's not that funny.
That's trained dogs, do they not?
And I'll just light a candle of concern. David Wells called me this morning, and he has a little back problem, which is why he and Alice aren't here. He says he's had it before, so it's nothing serious. He says 2 or 3 days in bed, he'll be fine. But you might give him some thought. And of course, David and Alice usually bring Jessica here. So we called Jessica to see if she needed a ride. She's not feeling well. Don't think it's COVID, I think it's just a cold. But so we'll light a candle for her as well. And I'll light one for all of you who didn't choose to come up here, but we know you have joys and concerns in your life. And so we'll light a candle for everybody. And now, as you know, it takes something to keep the lights on and to do all the things that we do. And so we pass the baskets, and we will have them come down, and thank you for your generosity.
very heavy.
I could hardly hold it. Thank you so much for your generosity. I'm doing a little running around, turning all the hats here. Thank you, Ray. And I think we're at that time.
Let me restoration.
One more hymn, thank you. Number,
It's a reading.
it's a reading. Yeah, excellent. Responsive reading 576. Litany of Restoration. Do you want me to read it or are you going to?
Litany of restoration.
Correct.
Is that what we need for New Year?
Yes.
A veritable litany. A litany of restoration. If, recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white,
It will not matter.
if you are female and I am male,
It will not matter.
if you are older and I am younger,
It will not matter.
if you are progressive and I am conservative,
It will not matter.
if you are straight and I am gay,
It will not matter.
if you are Christian and I am Jewish,
It will not matter.
if we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter.
In this spirit, we build community and move toward restoration.
Thank you. And now, it is time for our illustrious speaker, who, by the way, is from Black Mountain. She lives right, well, she's from West Virginia, but she lives in Black Mountain and has for several years. So here is our own Donna Marie Todd.
Thank you, Larry. So, you know, it's the new year. It's always time in the new year to think about what really matters and to think about how you might want to take your life forward and things you might want to leave behind, things that might have gotten burdensome or problematic. And I think in this particular year, as we move into New Year, it's wise to think about some of the things that we've endured in the last several years. A worldwide pandemic that did not see male or female, black or white. That has devastated the world. It's interrupted our supply chains. It's made us insecure. It's made us afraid of one another, has it not? It's taught us to stop looking people in the eyes, because when you can only see this much of somebody's face, since 90% of all communication is nonverbal, we have cut ourselves off from one another. So there's that restoration that we need to think about. How do we do that? How do we reach out to other people? And then let's talk leadership for just a minute, or the lack thereof. Lies have become commonplace on both sides of the aisle. People lie about their educational background, get elected, and keep lying about it. We've reached a point where it's time to take some things back. It's time to use our stories and our voices for the gifts that they are. Because you see, our voices and our truth, they represent the creation continuing. So each of us in here, the possibility of you and I being here today in the shape and the form that we are, hundreds of thousands to one. Yet here we are. And so if we're here for just such a time as this, a time when maybe it's our words that might be important, a time when it's maybe our hand that reaches out that might be important, it's important to remember that the Creator has been watching us little humans run around making messes of things for a very long time. In fact, after the Babylonian exile, in Susa, there was still a sect of Jews. Now, one of those, they were two cousins. One was named Mordecai, and he was an older statesman working in the palace. And then there was his orphaned ward, Hadassah, who is also known as Esther. Well, ruling over the kingdom was Xerxes. Now, King Xerxes ruled over 127 provinces. Talk about world domination. From India to Kush, his empire and wealth were vast, and he was somewhat of a show-off. Sound familiar? And so for 180 days, he displayed his wealth through the city of Susa. And then at the end of that, he held a banquet that lasted for a week. And he invited all the important men of the kingdom, nobles, princes, military leaders for sure. And he held this banquet in his internal garden, which was really something. It had linen curtains attached to marble columns with silver rings. And the men reclined on couches of silver and gold. And the floor was paved with precious stones and mother of pearl. Now, in addition to the 7-day all-you-can-eat buffet, copious amounts of wine were consumed. Each one in a gold goblet different from the other, because these were, keepsake from the king. Huh? Wow. He loved his wine. Sound familiar? So after 7 days of feasting, all the wine, I mean, King Xerxes was a little drunk. And he decided he wanted all the men there to see his queen, Vashti, wearing her royal crown, in her royal robes, because she was really something fine to look at. So he sent the 7 eunuchs that attended him to go and fetch Vashti. But Vashti refused him because she was holding her own banquet in the palace for the women. Well, when King Xerxes realized that she had rejected him, he was stunned. No, he was embarrassed. No, he was enraged. You know how men get when a woman says no. And this was in the time before no meant no. Well, he asked his advisors what he should do. This was humiliating. And they all were happy to help him, because if word got out that Vashti had refused to appear before the king, well, what in the world would their wives do? Uppity women would be everywhere. So they suggested that the king make a decree that, in fact, he was the one who didn't want to see Vashti. So he made a decree, signed it with his royal ring, that Vashti could no longer come before Xerxes. But once he sobered up a little bit, he missed her. I mean, Vashti was beautiful, and she was cunning, and she was charming. And so he asked his advisors again what he should do. He was lonely, even with a harem filled with women. And they said, dude, you're the king. Why don't you have a beauty contest? Bring virgins from all over the province and let the prettiest one be the queen. What a great idea. So he made another decree, sealed it with his royal ring, and out word went to the 127 provinces that the king was in search of a new queen. And one by one, the eunuchs began to bring virgins to the harem at Susa. And one of those virgins was Hadassah, Esther. Oh, she was really beautiful, with a lovely figure, and she was charming and smart. And she soon found favor with the eunuch in charge of the beauty contest. And he gave her the finest place in the harem, and 7 attendants to apply the creams, the perfumes, potions that would make her irresistible to Xerxes. And when it came time for her to go in, oh, he was taken with her. He was infatuated with her. And he put the royal crown upon her head and made her the queen. Now Mordecai had warned Esther not to tell anyone that she was a Jewess. At about the same time, Mordecai was walking by the palace one day to check on Esther when he overheard 2 army commanders plotting to kill the king. So he told Esther, who told the king, and gave Mordecai credit for having saved his life. Well, when the king found out that it was true that the officers were going to kill him, he had them impaled on poles. It was a thing. And then he had it written in the book of the king that Mordecai had saved the king's life. Now, as all of this was taking place, there was a very evil, slimy man named Haman, who began to rise to power in the palace with bribery and trickery. Sound familiar? And when he rose to the highest seat of the nobles, he was bold enough to ask Xerxes if maybe it would be okay if people knelt to him in the streets. And the king never went out, so he said, sure. Well, all the people knelt before Haman except Mordecai. And when Haman saw that Mordecai refused to honor him, refused to bow before him, he decided he would destroy him. And when he found out that Mordecai was a Jew, he decided to trick the king into killing all of the Jews. Why not? So he went to see the king, and he brought with him some very fine wine. He poured the king a glass, and they began to sip. And as he poured the king another glass, he said, King Xerxes, it has come to my attention that there are peoples in your kingdom who are not like the other peoples in your kingdom. And they do not obey your laws. I think it would be best if you eliminated them. And to help with the matter, I will deposit 10,000 talents of silver into the treasury. People who did not abide by his laws. Yes, do as you said. And he sealed the decree that all the Jews should be killed, destroyed, and annihilated with his royal reign. Well, when word went out and Mordecai heard about it, he began to wail, and then he covered himself in ashes and wore sackcloth. And when Esther heard that he was in distress, she sent her eunuch to see what was wrong. And when she learned of Haman's evil plan, she was devastated. And Mordecai said, Esther, you must go before the king. You must ask him to save us. And she was afraid. If you went before the king without being given permission, you would be killed. But Mordecai implored her again, saying, Esther, what if you were born for just such a time as this? And do not think that just because you are sitting in the king's house that you are safe, for we will all perish. And so she said, okay, I want you to gather all the Jews in Susa and fast and pray for me for 3 days, and I will do the same. So they did, and on the 3rd day, Esther arose, and she washed herself. And then the eunuchs applied the creams and the perfumes and the potions that made her irresistible to Xerxes. She put on her royal crown and her royal robes, and she went and she stood in the inner courtyard of the king. And when he saw her, she was so beautiful. He held out his scepter so that she could pass through the guards. And he said, what is it, my queen? ask me for anything, even half my kingdom, and it will be yours. He was that infatuated with her. And she said, my king, if it pleases you, will you and Haman come and dine with me today? Oh, yes, of course. The king ordered that Haman arrive and come with him to go to Esther's banquet. And while they were dining with Esther, he said again to her, Esther, my queen, tell me what you desire and I will give it to you, even if it's half my kingdom. He was that infatuated with her. And she said, oh, King Xerxes, only that you might dine with me again tomorrow, you and Haman. Oh, yes, the king said, of course. Well, when Haman left the palace, he was riding high until he saw Mordecai not kneeling before him and additionally not appearing to be afraid. He went home in a rage and he explained to his wife what was going on. She was a viper of a woman. And she said, well, why don't you have a pole built 50 cubits high? And then tomorrow you can impale Mordecai on it. It was a thing. So he had the pole built overnight. But then one of those wonderful mysteries of the creative spirit happened. King Xerxes couldn't sleep that night. And so he had his favorite bedtime book brought into him, the Book of the King. And then the story was read to him about how Mordecai had saved his life. And he asked, well, what had been done to honor Mordecai? And he was told nothing. Well, the next morning when Haman came to the palace, the king said, now, what should one do to honor someone that the king wishes to honor? And Haman, thinking it was him, said, well, your majesty, what if you were to let them wear your royal robes and ride upon your finest horse and have your highest noble lead them through the streets in front of all the people? And the king said, wonderful idea. Go and do as you have said with Mordecai the Jew. What? I mean, you can imagine how Haman felt. But he had to go and take Mordecai through the town wearing the king's robes and on his royal horse. And he didn't even have time to pout about it. Because by the time he got back, it was time to go to Esther's stupid banquet. Well, at the banquet, Esther had saved the best wine for last, and King Xerxes was taken with it. And with her. And he again asked Esther, my queen, tell me what you want and you can have it, even if it's half my kingdom. He was that infatuated. And she said, my king, if I have pleased you in any way, then please spare my life and the lives of my people, for we have been sold to be destroyed, killed, annihilated. What? Xerxes said, who has done this? And Esther said, my king, it is an enemy, an adversary. It is this man, Haman. What? The king rose up in a rage. Why, he even left his wine. He went outside to the courtyard and stewed and thought. And meanwhile, Haman stayed behind to beg Esther for his life. So when the king came back into the courtyard, there was Haman falling down into Esther's lap on the king's own couch. And the king said, will you even come into my house and try to lie with my queen in my house? And there was a eunuch who did not particularly care for Haman, who had been waiting for his opportunity. And he said, excuse me, but Haman had a pole 50 cubits high built last night right next to his house so that he could impale Mordecai on it. Oh, said King Xerxes. Well, then impale Haman on it. And they took Haman and they impaled him on the pole. It was a thing. And then the king gave Esther all of Haman's possessions, and she set Mordecai over them, but it still didn't solve the problem. She begged the king to take back his edict, but it was his edict. Like, he couldn't take it back. So he decided he would write another edict. He was king, why not? He wrote an edict that all the Jews had the right to protect themselves against those who would kill, destroy, and annihilate them. And he signed the decree with his royal ring. And so it was that all the Jews killed thousands by the sword, and they impaled the 10 sons of Haman on poles, because it was a thing. And so it was that Esther saved the lives of her people, because she was born for such a time as this. So what will you do in the new year when an opportunity comes your way to help another, to stand up for what is right, to save people who don't deserve to die just because they're a different color or they live in a different country? What if the power of your story has the power to heal someone else's life? What if the power of your voice unites other voices around you? Could it be? Could it be that you were born for just such a time as this? Happy New Year.
Told you, didn't I? Thank you, Donna Marie, for bringing a story that's very appropriate for this time. Well, we're going to end with a benediction. That benediction will be sung by Donna Marie Todd. And then, of course, you're all invited to the greatest time of the day, coffee hour, in which we have coffee by Mary, and we have brookies. For those who don't know what brookies are, they're half brownie, half cookie.
May the deep peace of the mountains high be yours now and remain with you. May it fill your life and all that you do. Deep peace of the mountains high to you. May the sweet joy of a laughing stream be yours now